Yamishibai Ghost Stories is an animated anthology originally released in 2013 and is still airing today. It's a collection of self-contained short stories exploring the more sinister urban legends and folklore of Japan. A unique aspect of Yamishibai is an animation style which pays homage to the country's artistic roots. In Japanese, Yamishibai means dark play, which is a derivative of kamishibai, which means paper play. Kamishibai have their oldest roots in 9th and 10th century monks using illustrated scrolls to tell stories. Over time, ataki, or picture tellers, adopted the practices of the ancient kamishibai into street performances as traveling storytellers, where they would often set up a little stage and help tell their stories with the aid of illustrated picture boards and paper cutouts, hence paper play. The stories were free to observe, so the kamishibai would make a living by selling candy to onlookers. In the early 1900s, financial hardship swept over much of Japan. This caused kamishibai to erupt in popularity as they were an affordable form of entertainment for adults and children alike. Decades later, when Japan started to become more affluent, kamishibai was seen as poor man's theater and fell out of popularity. However, kamishibai would help lay the foundations for anime and manga. All that is to say that the premise of Yamishibai Japanese ghost stories is that of a traveling kamishibai who is telling the tales of his dark plays, or Yamishibai, to passerbys. It's up to the listener to decide how true these dark plays are. Some of the episodes do feature malevolent forces that seek to cause harm for harm's sake, ranging from cartoonishly evil to instilling a type of fear only the unknown can induce. By and large though, most of the stories seem to allude to a be careful what you wish for type of message or severe consequences for neglecting one's responsibilities, or even treading off the beaten path carelessly. There was also quite a few tales that dealt with the salary men and women whose life was utterly consumed by their soul-crushing job. It should be no surprise then that Yamishibai Japanese ghost stories reflects the values, hopes, and fears of Japanese culture. Do I really want to go through 140 episodes and give a breakdown for each one? This is compounded by the fact that each episode's only about like 4 or 5 minutes long. So my explanation of the episodes could end up being longer than the episodes. I was like, how am I going to do this? 1 essentially means avoid it. It's not worth your time, in my opinion. 2 is it's serviceable. It functions as an episode. And 3 is if you're even remotely interested in this series, you should definitely check out. I guess it's coming up now. Good luck. Yamishibai Japanese ghost stories reminded me a lot of a setting called World of Darkness. World of Darkness is basically take Dungeons and Dragons, vampires and werewolves in the modern world, you know, people behind the scenes manipulating humanity. That's kind of the setting of the World of Darkness. There's like supernatural terrors behind the shadows, pulling the strings and guiding humanity towards a nefarious ends. That's essentially the World of Darkness. Well, Yamishibai, it's basically the World of Darkness in Japan. People have the unfortunate chance of, like, you know, running into them, or maybe fortunate depending on the story, because there are 140 of these motherfuckers, so they explore a lot of grounds. I don't know how I feel about the length of the episodes. They're about 4 to 5 minutes, like I said. It's a hit or miss, really. I wish they would have took their time with some stories and then fleshed them out further, because there were really some compelling moments. Definitely gonna be some stories that you run across that you wish that they would have fleshed them out. There are gonna be some that you're like, well, this kind of sucks. I'm glad this is over. So the episodes, it seems like each episode had its own unique art style, but each season had an overall kind of art guide. I did appreciate the experimentation with the different art styles. There were times I was genuinely engaged and fucking scared out of my mind. There were definitely the jump scares. I was like, oh, there's definitely times the show fucking got me. Now, it wasn't like that most of the time. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't like that most of the time, but at least some of the time. Overall, yeah, there were definitely some scary jump times going on in here. There were definitely some emotional roller coasters that occurred on the journey of the show. I will say it seemed that the endings especially, they seemed to rely a little bit too much on jump scares. It was going one direction and it's a couple seconds left in the show, well, here comes the twist. Ooh, ooga booga. I don't know. It didn't always work, but I mean, with that many episodes, not all of them are gonna work. Not all of them are gonna work. So there is one quirk of the show that kind of I wouldn't say it pissed me off, but what's the phrase I'm searching for? Frustrated. A lot of the circumstances that happen in the show that tend to be of a unfortunate nature could really have been avoided if, instead of standing around wondering what's going on, they just fucking got the fuck out of there. Just got the fuck out of there. So as a viewer, I was like, so this is gonna be what, the 50th episode? Or it's oh my god, that's really dangerous looking. Let me get my face closer. I'm what are you guys doing? Why are you getting the fuck out of here? I try to express where I'm coming from a little bit, at least, with my cut of Halloween, the GTFO cut. And I'm not saying I want all movies to be 2 minutes long. What I'm saying is you can still have a horror movie of a relative length, but the characters react realistically. It takes a lot of skill from the writer to have the characters react realistically and also have those characters not compromise their entertainment value. So yeah, I wish they would have just got the fuck out of there a lot of the time and had the story continue on in a more realistic. And because I was just guys, fucking, what are you doing? Fucking stop it. As someone that's grown up reading comic books, role-playing books, watched anime, read manga, I really appreciate Yamishibai's foray into the storytelling direction. I just really like the explorations in storytelling and in different media to convey these different stories. What Yamishibai does really well is it takes this ancient way, this ancient storytelling technique, and while keeping true to that spirit, brings it into the modern era, replete with modern lore and myths and urban legends. I really love the idea of what Yamishibai represents and where its history and where it comes from. Its episodes, not all of its episodes hit, but that does not diminish the virtue of what this series is as a base, as a structure, as a narrative structure. Yamishibai Japanese Ghost Stories is sitting at 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 4.7 out of 5 on Google Reviews, and 7 out of 10 on my anime list. This show is an obscure one, to be sure. I set out on a mission to find an animated horror movie reminiscent of the Western horror movies made in the 70s and 80s, and this show is the only one that came even close. If I didn't set out to find such a particular type of show, I doubt I would ever have come across Yamishibai. It was hard to find sales data relating to this series. However, what I was able to discern is that it's still a currently running show despite it being released in 2013, and prominent anime streaming sites such as Crunchyroll saw enough of a reason to release the show on their platform. There's also the case of that I'm an American trying to analyze the impact of a very Japanese show that honors one of its older artistic traditions. That's a tall order to accomplish. So instead of that, what I feel I can safely say is the impact of kamishibai itself. Despite it having fallen out of popular practice in Japan, decades later a show about kamishibai was made and is able to hold its ground in its own niche despite being surrounded by contemporaries with modern animation techniques. Yamishibai Japanese ghost stories in the larger world of cinema and animation resembles the folklore it covers, an almost secret and hidden collection of stories that sound too strange to be true. So who do I think that this series is for, right? Well, firstly, let's talk about the animation style that you've been seeing throughout this whole review process, right? If animation really isn't your thing, it's going to be a really hard sell for you. You diving into this, it's probably not going to really change your mind. And I know a lot of people get hung up on like if a movie's like shot with real people or it's animated or it's CGI or whatever. To me, it's all entertainment. I'm sitting down watching pixels on a screen light up my mind with different feelings and thoughts. Like it doesn't matter to me, but some people it really does. And I'd probably just stay away from it, watch something else that tickles your fancy. If you are open to animation, if you have an interest, even a passing interest in comic books, because there's a lot of similarities between the craft of kamishibai, the story is presented in Yamishibai, how their story is told through sequential art. So if you have a passing interest in comics or you used to be into comics and you like vaguely horror stuff, okay, this is the type of person I'm speaking to you. This is the type of person that should at least watch a few episodes of Yamishibai. The first season, in my opinion, is the strongest season. I could see someone just, wanting to like dip in here for a season, then dip out. Could totally see that. If that's your plan, then definitely make it season 1. If you're really interested in like, new ways of storytelling or old ways of storytelling made new again, some kind of cross-pollination like that, this definitely is worth checking out. If you're a fan of art, illustrated art, of a wide array of styles, this might actually interest you as well.